Manhattan 125 garage, located at Spring and West Street in Lower Manhattan, is really a unique and pivotal project for the Department of Sanitation and the New York City Department of Design and Construction. Datner Architects, in association with WXY Architecture and Urbanism, responded to a public RFP in 2006 for the design of this really pivotal facility for the city of New York. Design was completed in 2010 and construction was complete in 2015. Well, I say that this is a pivotal project for the city of New York because it integrates many what were then state-of-the-art or cutting-edge sustainability features that are now just taken for granted and incorporated into every new sanitation garage. This is the first high-rise sanitation facility that I can think of anywhere, consolidating 3 districts onto one site. We use municipal steam, so there's no fossil fuels burned on site. We harvest the condensate for that steam, along with rainwater that is harvested from a 1.5 acre green roof to be reused for vehicle wash, reducing the overall water use in the facility by 70%. The facade is another key element here where, in response to community concerns about this big building in our neighborhood, well, we're going to wrap the building in glass curtain wall. You can see in, you can see everything that's there. But in order to control glare, not only for people within the building, but at night from the lights that are on in a 24/7 facility, we use the perforated fins to shield that light, which also allows for daylight harvesting. So in the wintertime, you can get more solar radiation into the building. In the summer, you can shield that facade. In addition to using the steam condensate for heating and cooling, an extractive steam turbine was incorporated into the building, which is a necessary component of reducing the steam pressure at the street to a more usable steam pressure within the building. It's really about considering all of the project users. Collaboration with our design team and the users and other stakeholders of the project are really key to that. We have this beautiful stair that rises up the full 75 feet of the building with panoramic views of New York Harbor. And the reason for that is to promote sanitation workers to use the stair instead of the elevator to go from their locker room to the mustering floor and then out to the garage. Each of the districts have their own unique color, so there's a bit of an identity, and it really encourages people to walk in the hallway and the public spaces of the building. We pulled the locker rooms and offices back from the exterior wall, so that gave more of a public identity to the community. When they look up at the building, they see these brightly colored walls, and it also allowed for a sharing of that daylight. Not only the corridor, but each office, the locker rooms, all get natural light.
So the NYPD 116th Precinct Station House is a new building in Rosedale, Queens, right next to the entrance to the Long Island Railroad Station. The project came about through our New York City Department of Design and Construction Design Excellence contract for large projects. We had just wrapped up a study for a smaller precinct in Brooklyn and had learned a lot about programming, the aspirations of the department for community interface. So it was really great to take those lessons and carry them on here into a new project. Design on the project started in 2017, and the main stakeholders were the New York City DDC and the New York City Police Department as the end user and sponsor agency. And we're really excited that construction wrapped up in 2024, and they've been occupying the building since. So community was a core driver to this project. Previously, the 105th Precinct was one of the largest in Queens, and response times were getting longer and longer. So the community really fought to have that broken down into 2 smaller precincts, this one being the 116. One of the new initiatives that NYPD brought was a program to have a community room. And we really played that up as a big feature here, seeing how we can make it transparent, visible, and really break down those perceived and physical barriers. So really working closely with NYPD stakeholders to say we can have daylight we can have transparency and still have security was one of the big challenges and one of the greatest successes. The project also participated in the DCAS 80 by 50 commitment, which seeks to incorporate deep energy conservation measures into projects to enhance their sustainability. Some of the big highlights were a photovoltaic array on the roof that produces 100 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. That's about 16% of the building's annual energy demand. We also look to increase the thermal performance of the envelope. That included enhancing wall insulation and using triple glazing. And as the city was also moving forward in its sustainability measures, NYPD is electrifying their fleet. So we have level 3 fleet EV chargers throughout the parking lot. So working on the 116, like all of our public infrastructure projects, we really see is about challenging prescriptive requirements, really getting to the heart of what is the intention behind them and how can we do it better? How can we incorporate that goal, but through the most holistic and integrated way possible? And this all comes about by really deep partnering with stakeholders, working together to identify priorities as a group, to make sure that together the integrated design achieves everyone's goals and we're hitting those priorities and everyone is invested in it, especially on a public project, working with the operations staff, bringing them to the table early on to make sure they're invested in the decisions since they will be the stewards for the long term. What we design, it will live on long after we're gone. So to know that they're there and are going to keep it going and it's going to operate as we designed it.
We're really starting to see a shift in the way that we talk about sustainability and infrastructure, and a lot of it has to do with how we measure it, the metrics that we use. We've come a long way since LEED being the primary thing that we had to achieve, and that kind of like framed a lot of our discussions around sustainability and infrastructure. And now we're really looking at including things like sites and envision that look at the green space or the landscape around a site, just looking at it as a piece of infrastructure and how oftentimes infrastructure can be a catalyst in a community and has an opportunity to bring a lot of good, bringing together not only a diverse group of stakeholders, but also the community to ensure that everyone is comfortable with what's going on and that they feel involved with the process. It's become clear that that's really integral to the success of the project. So I think ever since our firm's inception, when we've been talking about these large-scale infrastructure projects, one of the things that we've really been able to do is build consensus, not only with a large, diverse group of stakeholders, but also with the community. Basically, from Riverbank State Park to now, that's always been something that we've been doing, within the lens of sustainability, because even though it's not something we traditionally talk about, so often the conversation is around energy efficiency and operational savings, I think it does go a way towards addressing some long-standing climate environmental injustices that have been fairly prevalent in a lot of the neighborhoods where we do work. This idea of focusing on resiliency is extremely critical. These projects will outlast us, even if they weren't originally designed to. And so it's really important to make sure that we're not only designing for what we expect to see in the next 15 to 20 years, but we're also designing for what we expect to see in the next 75 to 100 years, so that we're really setting these projects up for long-term success and therefore their communities as well. These projects are an opportunity to really expand the way that we talk about sustainability and also the way that we integrate sustainability into architecture and then also communities. We're starting to become sustainability leads on a lot of these projects, which I think is really exciting. We are natural consensus builders. We're meeting people at their value system to make sure that we can build that consensus and that we can make sure that projects are successful, not only kind of like how it's built, but also what goes into it, how does it interface with the community around it, working with local municipality or city, state agencies. The reality is that as critical as these projects are, funding is often a little tight. And so we want to make sure that we are really providing the best project that we can and making sure that we're providing adequate resources for the project to have that long-term success. So how can we work with facilities? How can we work with the people using the building to ensure that there are these toolkits and other things that are needed to make sure that the projects are being maintained in perpetuity, and that 30 years from now, the next generation of Datner architects can go to a project and say, oh yeah, this was working as designed, but here's what we can do better because we've already tackled that first phase.